What an amazing week of SEC football we are in for, folks. What is going on? Welcome back to the North to South Show, weekly SEC picks presented by Touchdowns to Home Runs. I'm your host, Noah. Great week we have upcoming. We had a great week last week. Obviously, we had some of the best games all season going into last week. And even though that this week, what is this now, week 6 of college football, this was supposed to be the premier week in the SEC. There you look at some of the games that you looked at going into the season, and you look at where they're at now. Obviously, one's going to jump into your head, but we're going to talk about that in a bit later. And you're like, the magnitude of this game has kind of fallen off. And then you look at some other games and been like, this was a game that was just a complete afterthought. It wasn't even a thought going into this season that this game was actually two top-tier caliber teams in the SEC. So very interesting to see how storylines shift in the SEC going from the beginning of the season, what you think about games from the beginning of the season, going into actually finishing up week 5 and going into week 6 with the games that we got here. We got a total of 7 games, 13 of 14 SEC teams playing. Mississippi State is on a bye this week, but other than that, all 13 other teams are playing. So let's get into picking these games, because starting off at 12 o'clock on SEC Network, we have the Vanderbilt Commodores and the Florida Gators. What else is there to say about this game? Vanderbilt comes off of the $1 game. If you didn't see that going around social media, I don't know where you were living, but tickets for the Vanderbilt UConn game last weekend were $1. You could have gone to an SEC, that is right, an SEC football game for $1. Not sure where else you're going to find that other than Vanderbilt, because I guarantee you it's not happening at Alabama, it's not happening at Georgia, it's not happening at Auburn, it's not happening anywhere except Vanderbilt. But Vanderbilt picks up the win. They beat Connecticut. I'm pretty sure it was 30-28. Hard-fought win there for Vanderbilt. Florida, on the other hand, they're coming off a loss, and there is no better time for this Vanderbilt game to come than right now after this loss for Kentucky, because we still know that this Florida Gators team is good. They're still in the top 20. Yes, they lost to Alabama. Yes, they just lost to Kentucky, who, give Kentucky credit. Kentucky is a damn good football team, and they deserve to be in the top 25. So that loss to Kentucky shouldn't be taken back on Florida, and it shouldn't be looked at negative. Yes, they lost the game. It's unfortunate, but this Vanderbilt game is what Florida really, really needs right now to be able to bounce back, because you look ahead of this schedule, Florida's still got to play Georgia. That's still a big-time matchup, and what happens if Georgia slips to a team in the SEC East still? You still got to battle it out and try to pick up as many wins as possible to keep yourself in contention for that SEC East spot. So this is a good game just for Florida. Get back into it after the Kentucky loss. We all know Florida's going to out-talent Vanderbilt. There's no question about it. Florida wins this game easily. No questions asked, no further explanation needed. 12 o'clock on ESPN, we have the Arkansas Razorbacks going to Oxford, Mississippi to take on the Ole Miss Rebels. Now, who would have thought that this game would be an all-ranked matchup, for goodness sake? And who would have thought? I know I made a video last week talking about, oh my gosh, this could be the 1-2 matchup, because Arkansas was going up against Georgia, Ole Miss was going up against Alabama last week, and if both of those two teams pulled away with a win there, who knows what the AP would have looked like. And it didn't. I didn't expect them both to win. I did pick Ole Miss over Alabama, and I was quickly reminded again, I'm not the guy to make excuses for my picks when I miss on a pick, and I did with that Ole Miss pick. Hand up, misjudged that, and once again, Alabama just proves to be the best team in the nation. So both of these teams are coming off a loss to the two best teams in all of college football. Easily, both of those teams could be number 1 in the nation, so it's nothing really to hang your heads on. Great rebound game. This is a great game to see what both of these teams are made of, because you're coming off of that loss, but yet you still got a good opponent next week. Now you get Ole Miss, has this game at home, which I think obviously helps. Arkansas didn't score any points last week, and obviously the offense was a real struggle. What you're going to see at Ole Miss isn't going to be Georgia, but the fact that Arkansas wasn't able to put up anything against Georgia, kind of a concern for me going into this game, and that's where I think I'm going to lean towards Ole Miss in this game. Ole Miss can still put up points on the board. They struggled early, but they were able to put some points up late in the game against Alabama. I think Ole Miss's offense wins them this game, but overall, this is going to be a very, very close and competitive ball game throughout the game. But I just see in a tie ball game going into the fourth quarter, you need one of these offenses to put up a touchdown to pull away with the game. I just feel more confident in Matt Corral and Lane Kiffin's offense going into this game. So right now, I am going to take Ole Miss, but don't get me wrong, this is going to be a great and competitive game that we got on at 12 o'clock noon on ESPN. 12 o'clock, ESPN2, we have South Carolina and Tennessee. Now, we don't do the South Carolina picks anymore. Talked about that in other videos. But all I'm really going to say about Tennessee is they just came out with some black uniforms, which I think that I'm going to do a video on a bit later. But, oh boy, those uniforms. That's all I got to say. Tune in for the video that I make about those uniforms to get my full opinion. But just, 3:30 on CBS. Remember that this is the special CBS Saturday to do the amazing doubleheader, because at 3:30 prime time, or I guess the secondary primetime slot at 3:30 on CBS, we got, the Deep South's oldest rivalry, I'm pretty sure, Georgia versus Auburn. We got an amazing game here. Georgia is Georgia right now. Georgia is not even Georgia right now. Georgia is playing better than Georgia has been over the last 10 years. This is Georgia's season to do something special. We all know that. And in their way, they travel into Jordan-Hare Stadium, which obviously the past has shown is a place where some pretty funky stuff can happen. And Auburn comes in as the 18th best team in the country. Auburn didn't have the greatest win ever against LSU, but it was a hard-fought and gritty win. And let's be honest, going into Death Valley is never an easy task to do, but Auburn was still able, Bo Nix was able to go on the road in a tough environment against, however you feel against LSU, they still have a talented team, and come out with a win there. So very, very good signs for this Auburn team coming into this Georgia game. You get this game at home, and I honestly, right now, I have Auburn covering the spread. I'm going to take Georgia to win this game because right now I just think Georgia's on something that cannot be slowed down offensively and defensively. Georgia is just on another level that isn't going to be slowed down until they play Alabama in the SEC championship. But with that being said, getting Auburn at home, funky stuff always happen at Jordan-Hare Stadium. I got Auburn covering, I think it's like a 14.5 point spread. So this game's going to be close. I have this game being close. I don't have Georgia's offense going out and completely running over Auburn's defense, but I am going to have Georgia winning because this team is just way too hot right now to be slowed down. Way too hot. 4 o'clock on SEC Network, we have North Texas versus Missouri. Now, Missouri getting absolutely obliterated by Tennessee last week. They got to bounce back. They're playing North Texas. Missouri's going to win this game. This is really just a bounce back game, kind of like what Florida has in this week. You lose a game. In Missouri's case, you lose the game by a lot of points. You got to bounce back. You got to be able to bounce back and get back on track with the rest of your season. So I think Missouri wins this game. They're just going to really have to focus on slowing North Texas down defensively, because we all saw last weekend defense was a massive struggle. When you give up, 64 points, 68 points to Tennessee, you got to clean some stuff up. So I'm taking Missouri, 4 o'clock on SEC Network, 7:30 on SEC Network. Who would have thought that Kentucky would be favored going into this game? I know I certainly didn't. Hands up, I didn't think that there was a possibility that Kentucky was going to be favored going into this game, because I was thinking really high of LSU this year. But Kentucky is going to be favored going into this game against LSU that they get at home at Kroger Field. Bottom line, Kentucky's undefeated right now, and this Kentucky football team can run the football whenever they want to. I mean, they go out and beat Florida last week, which is obviously a massive win. This Kentucky team constantly being overlooked, and I am the number one culprit for that. I never, ever, ever give Kentucky the respect that they deserve, and I might not even still be giving them the respect that they deserve, but I'm starting to see that this Kentucky football team doesn't have a 16 next to their name and a 5-0 next to their name for no reason. So as good as I felt about LSU at the beginning of the season, and as good as I talked about LSU, and I was like, oh, LSU's no chance they lose this game to Kentucky, I'm taking the Kentucky Wildcats right now. Chris Rodriguez is looking like one of the best running backs in all of college football, not just the SEC. I didn't think he was a top 3 guy in the SEC when the season started. He's obviously proved me wrong since then, and this Kentucky O-line has proved to be, yet again, one of the best ones in all the SEC, all the country right now. Kentucky's just riding the high, and you get a good team like LSU come in that is definitely beatable. I think Kentucky comes out with the win here. Kroger Field is going to be rocking at 7:30, and Kentucky football, hey, starting off the season 6-0 in my opinion. Very, very interesting there. 8 o'clock on CBS, the big prime time night game CBS matchup of the whole year. CBS has one slot to do this each and every single season, and they pick Alabama and Texas A&M to be that game, because at the beginning of the season, you're not telling me that you would have picked any other game to be in this slot, because this looked like Texas A&M season to finally knock off Alabama. They get the game at home, blah, 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 blah. You're going to start off the season undefeated, all this stuff about Texas A&M. And you sit here going into week 6, Texas A&M's out of the top 25 and 3-2. What happened? Well, what happened was Haynes King got injured, and even with Haynes King, the offense was not producing at the level that they needed to be. So Alabama's coming into this game as the number 1 team in the country. Texas A&M is coming in unranked with a loss to Arkansas and Mississippi State. Alabama's going to win this football game. No matter what you want to say, Texas A&M's defense could get them hanging around in the beginning, but no matter what you want to say, there is not a living chance that this Texas A&M offense is able to produce anywhere near enough to compete with Alabama. You've seen what this Texas A&M offense has been throughout the season. It has not been a work of art at all. If you want to beat Bama, you got to be able to score points. And we even thought, talk about Ole Miss last week. We all thought Ole Miss's offense was going to be still good enough to compete with Alabama. This Alabama defense is really good. They can shut down anyone, and when your offense isn't there yet, even though we thought Ole Miss's offense was there, we thought that they had the ability, they just weren't. There's no chance that Texas A&M's offense is at that level yet to beat Alabama. So I'm taking Alabama in this game, push it to 6-0. And for our 8 o'clock CBS night game, bit of a letdown this year. Bit of a letdown. But hey, the game hasn't been played. You never know what can happen. There has been crazier things. Who knows? When the sun sets in College Station and those two teams hit the turf in Kyle Field, who knows what happens that Saturday. But those are my picks for this week. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Like down below, hit the comment button, subscribe. Thanks for watching, and definitely come back next time.